Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Maddie and we are doing a reading wrap up for January, February, and March. So we're going to be talking about the 23 books that I've read so far. Usually I would probably give reading wrap up stats, but I don't have those collected with me right now. So if you want to see those, you can go find them on my Bookstagram, and I always make like a monthly wrap up graphic, and I also make templates that everybody can use. We're gonna do all of them all 3 months in one video because if you don't know or you can't tell by my background, I actually moved to Florida in January, and then between moving, trying to get settled in, traveling back and forth to my hometown for doctor's appointments and stuff, I just have not had time to sit down and like just film a video like this. So we're doing that today, and also it's only 23 books, so it's not like some massive amount where I can't put it all in one video. And from now on, I am gonna try to start doing one for each month, and I also want to start doing TBR videos now that I feel like I've adjusted to my life here a little bit more and living on my own and training my dog and stuff. Anyways, I digress. I'm also wearing my glasses right now. I really hope there's not too much of a glare, but I can't see well without them. So if there's a glare on my glasses, I'm very sorry, but I don't want to get a headache while I'm doing this. So yeah, anyways, okay, let's go ahead and get started with January. I'm also gonna have to look at my phone because at this point it's a while ago and I don't always have the best memory. So in January I read 6 books, and I started out with Below Zero by Ali Hazelwood, and this is one of her novellas. She has 3 like STEM novellas, and this one takes place, I believe it was in Antarctica. Is that how you say that? Why am I blanking? Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. Anyways, and we're following our 2 main characters, and I can't tell you what they were doing out there because I didn't understand it. And I ended up rating this like 2.25 stars. I just did not enjoy it. There was too much, maybe it's just because I'm not smart enough, but I felt like there was a lot of actual like STEM work stuff in a novella, and for it being so short, it felt like it took up a lot and I didn't know what they were talking about ever. And I remember I just didn't love the main female character, and I can't believe I feel like now that I'm talking about these books, I'm realizing how much I probably don't remember about these books because it was 3 months ago, which is kind of embarrassing for me, but please just bear with me. I remember this stuff about the ones that I really liked, and I think it's just because I didn't enjoy this one. Since it was in a snowy place, it was kind of fun to read in the winter, and that was my first read of 2025. So my second book of January was The Perfect Rom-Com by Melissa Ferguson, and I actually gave this book 2 stars. I got it as an art copy. It's a closed-door romance, which I was very excited about, and we're following Bryony, who's an aspiring author, and she also works at her grandmother's ESL school, their language school, and it's really struggling. So she has this manuscript and she goes to a writer's conference, and she's hoping that she can get an agent to pick her up because being able to sell books would help, like the money would go towards the school. And she has a disastrous like first meeting with pretty much every literary agent there, but then she meets Jack Sterling, who's one of the top literary agents, and he ends up offering her a deal to be a ghostwriter. And I wish I could have enjoyed this book, but I did not, and I actually have a full review on this, so I can really give y'all my thoughts. So in the first, and I remember this, in the first 10%, that is like where her and Jack are meeting, and then you like skip I think like 2 years or so. It gives a lot of years, so you miss where they become friends. She has a boyfriend through like half of the book, or maybe over half. There's literally no romance, and this is supposed to be a rom-com. And then also throughout the entire book, Bryony just thought she knew everything when she really knew nothing. And then apparently when I was reading it, so I guess it's not surprising that I don't remember, like I couldn't remember Jack's name now. He was so one-dimensional that I didn't remember his name the entire time I was reading the book. So yeah, anyways, did not love that one, which I was really upset about because I've heard a lot of good things about Melissa's writing, and that one's just not for me. And then my third book in January is Moose Be Loved by Jacqueline Winters, and this is part of the Sunset Ridge book series. It takes place in Alaska, and we are following Cadence, who goes to the small town in Alaska where her aunt ran an Airbnb, but her aunt has passed away, and so she is having to go up there to get it ready to be sold, and it's been left to her and her two sisters. She meets Ford, who is kind of helping out around the bed and breakfast for the time being while they're waiting on her to get everything situated and done. And obviously there is a romance, and I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it being in Alaska. I actually lived in Alaska when I was little, so even though I was so young, like it's fun to kind of like reminisce over that time and think about how I used to live somewhere like that. And yeah, so it was just a really fun start to the series. I think I might actually give 3.5, not 4 stars, but you know, either way, like it was fun. I think it's like almost like a 10-book series or something. I know you follow the other 2 sisters and their books, and then I think some other townspeople, and yeah, it's just like a cute, like fun. A lot of them take place in the spring and summer, and then you have a couple of Christmas ones I think too. So this one took place in the spring, so it's the perfect time to read it now. And then the next book I actually listened to on audio, and that was Zero Days by Ruth Ware. So we are following Jack, who is trying to figure out who her husband. They are both work together to go into companies and test their security systems. So like they'll break into companies. Gabe, her husband, does the technical side behind the scenes, and then she actually goes in. But when she comes home from one of these missions, suddenly her husband has been murdered and she is the main suspect. And so she goes on the run to figure out who her husband. And I gave this book 3 stars. I really enjoyed it, but also I kind of felt like it got a little long. And then I actually called, like I was like, oh, I know who did this, probably before 50%. Now this could be because I actually watch like NCIS, like I watch a lot of crime shows, so maybe it's just because I kind of know how they work. But that was my only thing. Like it wasn't like a huge plot twist because I figured it out before it was even over. I do think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more if I hadn't read it on audio, if I would have read like it on my Kindle or like a physical book. And I think that's just because I read faster than I can listen to them. So sometimes for audiobooks, they just kind of drag out, and then I don't enjoy them as much as I probably would have. But the narrator was good. I really enjoyed her voice, and that's pretty much all I have to say on that one. Then I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Sinner, and I love this book. I give it 5 stars. This is another closed-door romance, and we are following our main female character, who is a bodyguard, and our main male character, who is an actor, and he has a stalker, so he hires this company. He has to go home to see his family, but he doesn't want his family to worry, so he asks his bodyguard to pretend to be his girlfriend. So it's fake dating. You have a woman that's the bodyguard, and I really enjoyed this. This is a perfect like summer read. It was very country vibes because his family actually lives on a ranch, and then we follow them as she's pretending to be his girlfriend. Yeah, it's just so cute, so fun, but it was just so good. I love Catherine Sinner's writing. She's one of my favorite authors. So if you're looking for a closed-door summer romance, The Bodyguard is perfect. And honestly, I wish I would have read it like last year because I don't know why I kept putting it off. I just did, and then I absolutely loved it. So, and my final book of January was Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I am sure everybody knows what this book is. It's the 3rd book in the Imperium series, which is the Fourth Wing series. I'm not even going to go into this book or any like this series because I think literally everybody knows, especially if you read fantasy. There's no way you haven't heard of this series. I enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. I will say it's probably my least favorite so far. Well, yeah, it is my least favorite. Fourth Wing was my first favorite. Iron Flame, second. This one's my third. I just feel like we're kind of getting repetitive with the storyline. Maybe that's just me. There were things, like I know a lot of people didn't like, I can't even give it, you know what? I'm gonna be quiet because I don't want to give any spoilers. I just felt like it was kind of getting repetitive. Will I continue the series? Absolutely. I still really enjoyed it, but the first, like, I would say 30% was kind of slow, and I think that was a big reason that I didn't love it as much. So starting in February, I started with The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. We're following Emily and Nick in this kind of Groundhog's Day-esque Valentine's Day, and we're following Emily as she has a terrible Valentine's Day, and she has to keep having it as a do-over until she finally gets it right. And Nick plays a big role, even though they aren't friends. I believe they were lab partners, but he was actually kind of rude for a lot of the book. Not rude, I don't know. He's just that bad boy, like too cool vibes. I gave it 3 stars because it is a YA and it felt very YA. To the point that like I believe Emily was in her junior year or her senior year. I think it was her junior year. And some of the stuff that she did just was so annoying, the way she was acting. Because I know even when I was like a junior in high school, I wouldn't have acted this way. So I kind of found her annoying. And I think by the end of it, maybe just like the whole Groundhog's Day thing is not for me, because I did start getting bored by the time that we had done Valentine's Day so many times. There was also a lot of explicit language in this book, which I found really wild for a YA book. It was closed door though. It was good, but not like something that I'm ever probably gonna think about again. Then I listened to The Crash by Frida McFadden on audio, and this is a thriller where we're following Tegan, who is I think like 8 months pregnant by a guy who does not want the baby, and he is gonna sign over all the rights. Right as that's going to happen, something comes up and she decides not to go through with this like signing over all the rights for money or whatever, and she goes and sees her brother, and as she's on the way she gets stuck in a snowstorm and wrecks her car, and we're kind of following like what happens after that. And the thing about this book, I gave it I think like 2.75 stars. I just didn't love it. At first it was so promising, and then suddenly after the car wreck I knew exactly what was gonna happen. It dragged on way too long and I was just bored. But of course, in true Frida McFadden style, or whatever the word is, there was a huge plot twist at the end that I didn't really see coming. But yeah, honestly, I feel like 30 or 40% of the book could have just been taken out, and I was getting so bored. I don't know if there were trigger warnings in the beginning, but if you are pregnant, honestly, I would skip this one, or at least check the trigger warnings, because I don't think this is something that if I was pregnant, I would have wanted to read it. Then I read Everything's Coming Up Rosie by Courtney Walsh. This is a 5-star read for me. I got it as an ARC. It comes out June 10th, and we are following Rosie, who is an aspiring theater actress, and it's not going well for her. She's living in New York City and she can't find a job, and then she finally gets offered a job to direct a play, a Cinderella play. When she gets to Door County, Wisconsin, she realizes that this is not just a regional theater that she's working for. This is actually a retirement community that's putting on Cinderella. So, oh my gosh, I don't know how she like missed that when she got the job offer, but it was hilarious. It was also a story about Rosie's self-discovery and development. I loved our main male character, Booker. He was so sweet, so funny. I loved their banter. I loved the residents of the retirement community. It was so fun. It's a perfect summer read. It's set in the summertime. I loved it so much. Oh my gosh, if you were looking for a closed door romance for summer, this is another one that once it comes out, I would definitely pick it up. I totally recommend it, especially if you love theater, small towns, all of those things. It was a great time. And then I read my favorite mistake, which is the second book in the Sunset Ridge series, and we're following our second sister. She is a professional chef and she went onto a reality TV show, and something goes wrong that she gets sent off the reality TV show. So she heads up to Alaska to go see her sisters, and she runs into her like summer fling high school sweetheart, and you kind of watch their romance, like their second chance at romance. It's super, super sweet. I gave it 4 stars. I think I enjoyed it a little less than the first one because I felt like we were really dependent on their romance from when they were in high school compared to seeing how their romance was developing as adults. And I think that's something that happens in a lot of second chance romance, that authors lean too much on how they were in the past, which is kind of a struggle because you're not the same person when you're you know, in your late 20s, early 30s compared to who you were in high school. So that was my only thing, is I felt like we were really, really leaning into their high school romance instead of the actual current romance. So then I read The Rebel Witch by Kristen Sorelli. This is the second book in the Crimson Moth series. The first book is The Heartless Hunter, where we are following a witch hunter and a witch who is a kind of like a witch vigilante who she saves witches at night from being hunted down by our witch hunter, and they get into a romance because they're actually using each other for information. Gideon thinks Rune is a witch, and I think he thinks she is the Crimson Moth, and she knows that he is obviously the head of the Blood Guard. So they get into a relationship where they're trying to get information out of each other, and this is the second book. It picks up right where Heartless Hunter left off. I definitely enjoyed Heartless Hunter more than this one. I felt like the pacing in this book was so off. Like, we really dragged it out, and then the last 50 pages, everything happened and was like wrapped up in a nice little bow, and we were done. I feel like almost like maybe it should have been a trilogy and then like really dragged out more so the last part. Like, I felt like we could have cut a lot of beginning of the book and then dragged more so the second half of the book out. Gave it 3.5 stars. Not my favorite. I would definitely recommend this duology though if you're trying to get into fantasy. And I also kind of realized in this book that I'm not sure I actually believe the romance between Rune and Gideon, which I know is kind of an unpopular opinion, but that's just me. Like, I don't think I actually see them together if it was real life. I then got an art copy of All Else Sails by Emma St. Clair. I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. We are following Wyatt and Josie, who are, it's kind of like an enemies to lovers, grumpy sunshine, but Josie's brother tricks her into going to stay with Wyatt because Wyatt has had surgery and he is having to recover from that. He is a hockey player and she is a school nurse, and her brother is Wyatt's like agent, and he asked Josie to go on this like vacation. Josie shows up, her brother's not there. Wyatt like calls the police on her. It's like a whole thing, but then she decides to stay to help him recover because clearly he needs some help. And he's trying to recover so he can go on this sailing trip. So you slowly watch them become friends. Honestly, I'm not usually a huge fan of Grumpy Sunshine because I feel like a lot of times the guy is just grumpy. Or not grumpy, he's just flat out rude. And Emma knows how to write a Grumpy Sunshine. He just actually was grumpy, not rude. And I loved Wyatt. He was great. I just loved their banter. It was such a cute like relationship, and it was also closed door and no explicit language. It was just so good. This does not come out until August, so it is a while, but when it comes out in August, y'all have to read it. It's just, oh my goodness, I love it so much. Then I picked up The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This was my in real life book club pick for February. This is the Ruminant Chronicles. It is on Kindle Unlimited, and I loved this so much. I gave it 5 stars. We are following a princess who is about to have an arranged marriage, but then she runs away. She was like, I'm not doing this, and her friend take off, and once she gets to the small town that they've been planning on going to, she meets 2 handsome strangers, and you're following kind of this love triangle, and oh my gosh, it's just so good. Loved it. 5 stars. It is YA, but it doesn't feel YA, and it's closed door and so good. So if you're looking for a new fantasy, this is a good place to start. Then I read First Time Caller by BK Borison. I gave this like 3.5 stars. This is following Lucy and Aiden. Lucy's daughter calls into Aiden's radio talk show because it is a relationship talk show, and Lucy has been chronically single, and her daughter feels like she needs advice on how to find a boyfriend. When this happens, Lucy and Aiden kind of make a connection, so she goes on his radio talk show to kind of almost do like a bachelorette type of thing. Men from the city will call in, she goes on dates and stuff, and obviously Aiden and Lucy get a friendship and kind of goes from there. I didn't love it because I felt like Lucy deserved so much better than Aiden. Like, There's something that happens, which I guess is like the third act conflict, that I was like, you've got to be kidding me right now. This is not high school. It was still a fun read. I really enjoyed the radio talk show part of it. I loved Lucy's character. I liked a lot of the side characters. I did not mind her daughter. A lot of times I'm not into the single parent trope because a lot of times kids in books can be annoying. Her kid was not. So that's kind of all of my thoughts. It's placed around Valentine's Day, which is very fun. So if you're looking for a Valentine's Day read next year, this is a really good one. Then I read The Serendipity by Emma Sinclair, which is part of a new closed door spring magical realism romance series. It's the first book in the series, and this is a multi-author series. We are following different residents of the Serendipity, which is a magical building. We are following Willa and Archer. Archer is a billionaire who has bought this building and is planning to like make all of these changes, and Willa is a local baker, and she ends up in Archer's apartment on like right when he moves in through a magical closet. And I thought this book was okay. I gave it like 3.5 stars. I felt like I wanted more from the magical realism point. I don't know. I didn't think I saw how Archer and Willow really, I don't know. I didn't really see how like their personalities came together and for them to be in a romance. I will say it had an anxiety rap, which was really nice. That was very well done in my opinion. And it was a good start to the series. I think I just expected more. Then I read The Heart of Betrayal, which is the second book in the Remnant Chronicles, and I gave this also 5 stars. Loved this book, second in the series, so I'm not gonna talk too much about it, and I already told y'all about the first book, so you know kind of what the series is about. You're just continuing following on that story. Now we are moving into my March books. I read 6 books in March, I believe. And the first one was The Summer Starting Over by Savannah Carlyle. This is a closed door romance that takes place on Dune Island, and we're following Callie, who is a pop star, but she started out as a country singer, but then as time went on, she switched over to pop, and she's coming back to her hometown of Dune Island because they're having to sell her late parents' house, so she has to clean it out. And when she gets back, she runs into Jessie, who is helping work on the house, and that is her like high school sweetheart that she left behind. And you're kind of watching their story of reconnecting, but also watching Callie find her love of music again. I gave this 4 stars. I got an art copy of it. It came out on April 1st, so it's already out. It's on Kindle Unlimited. I love Savannah's writing so much. Last year I read The Library of Second Chances by her, and I gave it 5 stars. She is one of my favorite closed door romance authors. So if you're looking for like a One of Us is Famous summer small beach town romance, this one's perfect for you. Then I read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This is very different than the romances I usually read because this is extremely spicy, and we are following Scarlett, who is a diver, and Lucas, who is a swimmer. And Scarlett's friend, who is Lucas's current girlfriend, actually sets them up that she's like, y'all should get together because you have both have the same sexual interest. And that's kind of the premise of the book. This book is super spicy. There's an author's note about it, but it is a college romance. I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 3.75 stars. Like, it was very good. I felt like we were starting to get a little long-winded by the end of the book. I did enjoy these 2 main characters together, but it was very lust heavy. And if you don't like spice, do not read this book. But I did love the diver and swimmer aspect of this, so that was very fun to me. Then I read The Beauty of Darkness, which is the 3rd book in the Remnant Chronicles series, and also gave that 5 stars. Just a 5-star series. I loved it so much, and that's all I can say on that because I don't want to give any spoilers. Then I picked up The Women by Kristen Hanna, which is following Frankie, who goes to the Vietnam War to be a nurse. She is going to follow her brother, so she enlists in the army, and you're kind of following her story as she's in Vietnam and when she comes back and the struggles that soldiers and nurses, and obviously it's the focus on the women who were in the Vietnam War, but what they went through when they came back from the war. This is a historical fiction and it is historically accurate, and it is such a hard read. I gave it 4 stars just because I felt like once you come back from the war, like Frankie comes back from the war and you're reading about that, I felt like it kind of got a little repetitive and a little bit long, but oh my gosh, the first part when she was in Vietnam was so, as somebody who has a family member who was in Vietnam in the army, it was so hard to read what they went through, what they experienced, what they saw. It was just gut-wrenching. I had to take breaks because it was so hard to read. I could start crying right now. This book made me so emotional. If you were thinking about reading this, if you have a personal connection to the Vietnam War, I'm going to tell you right now, prepare yourself. It's a hard read, but it's so good. And to understand what a family member of mine went through, or say understand, learn about, I can't ever like actually fathom what they went through, but I don't even think I can like describe what this book, what kind of perspective it gave me. So just know this can be very triggering. Please take care of yourself when you're reading this. But if you are interested in reading what it was like to be in the Vietnam War, coming home, all of that, this is definitely a good book to pick up. Then I picked up The Crash Landing by Annie McQuad. I put that I gave it 2.5 stars. I might have given it 2 stars because I got this as an art copy and I read it and I finished it, and I was sitting there trying to think about what I enjoyed about it, and there really wasn't much. It was following our 2 main characters who dated in high school and then they broke up for, you know, whatever reason, and then they're having to go to their best friend's wedding in, I think, the Bahamas, and they miss their flight. So he is a pilot and they take a small plane and they get in a plane crash and they end up on this deserted island together and they're having to survive. The only thing I enjoyed about this book was the setting of the deserted island. I didn't like either of our main characters. I didn't care about the past timeline from when they were in high school. I felt like for being like in late 20s, they were so childish. I'm not gonna rag on this book anymore. I'm just gonna move on. And then the last book I read in March was The Cupid Chronicles by Courtney Walsh. I gave this 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This is the second book in the Only Magic in the Building series. So this is following Iris and Mateo. They meet through this magical newspaper. Oh my gosh, I loved this so much. It was so fun. The way that Courtney Walsh did the magic for this, it was so funny. Some people felt like it was just like too cheesy. I loved it. I thought it was so funny. And obviously it's magical realism, so it's not gonna be like realistic, but it was so good. I really liked Iris and Mateo. The only thing is there was some background to Mateo that's just not a favorite of mine, which is why it was not a 5-star read, but I'm not gonna give that away because I think that would be considered a spoiler, but that was just why I didn't enjoy it as much, because I don't like that storyline. And I think it is somewhat of a common storyline, but it's just not one that I enjoy. And that is all the books that I have read so far in 2025. This video is gonna be way longer than I was expecting, but I've just been yapping, so I am gonna be quiet now, and then hopefully from now on I can do like a monthly wrap up, so these won't be as long. But that is where I'm gonna end this video. Thank you so much for watching, friends, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.